Welcome to the 12 o'clock speaker co-working group. This is a meeting that we do every day from 12 p.m. until 1. And again, we do it again at 7 p.m. until 8 every day. Starting next week, we will be adding a 3 p.m. slot in the afternoons for those who want to come in the afternoons as a way to introduce you to the speaking world. I'm Ron Story. I'm the head of product at SpeakerHub. We're with Angela Lewis, who's over operations, and a bunch of our faithful lifetime members from AJ Vassar, Kevin Hempstead, Jadika, Bart, Ron, Jasmine, all of our lifetime members here. We're here to help people to get booked. So any wins as we close out the week?
I have another win.
Oh, go ahead.
I sent 2 yesterday and got 1 response and 1 book.
Now we just gotta get you to send more than 2.
I know.
You got to get rid of these. We're gonna start calling them speaker coins. I need to create like Bitcoin for speakers because you got to send them. Share it. Quit trying to be perfect. How you gonna win the challenge? How you gonna win the challenge? You know they're giving away a prize at the challenge, and we didn't tell y'all what the prize was, but the prize is a really good prize. Okay, it's a good prize. So whoever wins that prize is gonna be happy. Layla Kubich is winning right now, and Layla already won once. Layla won 1 year, or either was it 1 year or lifetime? What do we give Layla back in October? Remember we had everybody answer a question, and we gave away. This was during the summit. I can't remember, but Layla won that prize, and I think she got a 1 year SpeakerHub Pro last year, which is like $6,000. So I ain't gonna tell you what we giving away, but we giving away something, and it's gonna be really cool. So Sharon, if you don't start sending them daggone pictures.
No, I was just testing just to get a feel of it. So moving forward, I'm in.
Sharon, you've been in for 3 months, all right? Send them daggone pictures. You hear me? You got the feel of it. Send them daggone pictures. All right, that's enough of me chastising Sharon for the day. Let me give you a hug so I don't get no emails from people saying I'm a bully. But Ian, good to see you back, man.
Hey, Ron.
Yo, what's been going on, man? You get any responses?
Yeah, dude. Yeah. You want me to sugarcoat it, or you want it straight up, buddy?
I want it straight up, man.
Okay.
I want to know what's going on, man.
You said it. So here is my experience. I want to switch to gallery view so I can see everybody's reaction.
Yeah. Can you turn your iPad to the side so we get the wide camera?
Yeah, absolutely.
There we go. So we get you full. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
Yep.
All right. So hold on. Let me open up the email. Benefit or Kelly Russell. So the advice was great, man. So I didn't know that you could. So post-stroke 2.0, I'm looking to hit the easy button with stuff. I got to focus on my stamina. I need to make sure I get fed. My basic needs are met, house, laundry, that stuff. And then I have certain hours that I can spend on money-making pursuits like speaking and stuff. So when you showed me that I could just send pitches to podcasts with 3-4 clicks, I was like, fuck yeah, Ron, this is the shit. That's the easy button. So I was all about it. And you're like, dude, you got 100 pitches sitting in here. What are you doing? So I'm like, shit, I'll just send them all out today. So I didn't send them all out. My back started to hurt, but I sent out 95, man. So I'm like, this is great. I just send them out to podcasts. This is awesome. So I sent out 95 of them. And the first one I got back was one of the most defeating moments I have experienced in a long time, dude. I'll just be.
What happened?
I'll be straight up. So I used the AI, and it wrote an awesome, in my opinion, almost like a cover letter. I'm excited for the possibilities to collaborate with XYZ podcast as a passionate cannabis advocate and deeply invested in positive global change, I've learned from my experience, blah, 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 blah. Wonderfully worded. So this is a perfect lesson of taking your shot and not knowing what you're going to get. So I got back, the first response I got back was the most repulsive, hurtful, dickhead thing I've ever experienced. I'm going to read this word for word. It's only like 3 sentences.
Okay, yeah.
What a fucking load of dribble. I've never read a paragraph where a man sucks himself off to completion, but that's what you did here. Impressive. You also managed to list nothing of substance. Echoes of communication. Damn, I hope you're really not sending emails written by AI. And then it says in parentheses, Ian McGann, the cum chugger. Bron, my fucking, you can't make this shit up. The first time after the stroke that I put this shit out there and I follow your steps, this is exactly what the fuck I got back. And I'm like,
and then what happened after that?
I wrote him back and I was like,
No. Did you get any others? You sent 95.
Oh yeah, but so I wrote him back and I was like, you could just say no, dick. And then I showed him my story and I was like, yeah, I use AI. I had a brainstem stroke and unfortunately, yep, it helps me. It's a tool in my toolbox. So yeah.
But what about the positive ones?
So I landed like 4, and that's actually why I'm on here today. No, five.
There you go.
So I got 5 maybes. No, I got 5 yeses, 1 maybes, and 1 cum chugger.
So throw that dude in the trash. Focus on the 6, bro.
So anyway, how much should I charge? That's why I'm back on here.
So on podcast, what you're doing is getting your message out. Do you have any other?
Tell me it's free, Ron. Don't even tell me it's free.
No, it's not free.
Okay. All right, cool.
You have to think about how do you get paid?
Yeah.
Right. So when you're going on a podcast, what the issue right now is nobody knows that you survived the stroke. They don't know your story, any of that.
Yeah. Okay.
Does that make sense? So now,
because I've been loud as heck. So
but how many gigs have you gotten from that method?
I mean, I've made a few. I haven't gotten paid yet, so I'm okay.
Exactly. So ride with me. Trust me.
Oh.
Right. So what we need to do is get your story where when you email a conference or you email an organizer, they can watch 5 minutes and say, wow, I need this guy.
So
right?
Street cred.
Yeah. So the podcast gives you the social proof, street cred, whatever you want to call it, where they can try you out before they pay you. Without that, they have no way to know what Ian's story is. You don't want to send them to GoFundMe. They're hiring you to speak, not for sympathy. So you want to show your ability to share your story, how you overcame it, and all of those things. That's what the podcasts are about.
Help me with something.
Yep.
42 years on this planet. I've learned to value my time, and it's not free. How can I wrap my head around this? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'll tell you. I got you. Hold on. Wait.
I've learned to say no to things that aren't the correct value. And this kind of feels like that. So.
Okay. So let me ask you this, right? I want to kind of put it in perspective.
Please.
Before you came over to us, was what you were doing working?
As in, well, no, it hasn't got me cash.
Okay.
No, I mean,
okay.
So I said it the first day, show me the money. So that's what my goal is.
Okay. Right. So what you were doing wasn't working and you were ready to give up on speaking and all of that stuff, right?
Yep.
Okay. What you purchased from us was a podcast membership that only allowed you to pitch podcasts, right? Yep. But that's part of the, but that's part of the flywheel in building the credibility to make people want to pay you. Now, you can make people pay you with a gun and a ski mask a lot faster, but that's not how it works in the speaking business. There are processes to get there. So we've already made more progress with getting 5 people to say yes, that they even care about your story That's 5 more than what you had before you met us. So wait, hold on. So now what we got to do is how do we leverage those 5 into those paid gigs and the next things? But right now, when I type in Ian McGann, it just brings up your GoFundMe.
Mhm.
It doesn't bring up Ian speaking. It doesn't bring up Ian presenting his stuff on podcasts. There's no evidence that you're a speaker in the world online when we Google you. After these 5 podcasts, there will be. Does that make sense? So, I mean,
Correct.
but here's the thing. This is the great thing about it. We can trust the process or you can abort the process. It doesn't affect me either way. I want to help you, but I can't lie to you and give you a gun and a ski mask process that would just be, it wouldn't be true. Oh man, you do this tomorrow, you're going to be rich. No, but we got to get you on the podcast. We got to get you some social proof that you are a speaker, that you do have a perspective, that makes people interesting. Imagine LeBron James, who's a great basketball player. If when he started playing basketball, he said, look, I want to go to the NBA. I'm not going to play unless y'all pay me. Like, dude, you're 7 years old. Like you haven't been playing long enough. You have aspirations to do this thing, but you haven't been playing long enough. There's no proof that you're even going to make it to the NBA. What we're doing is building the proof that a person with the check should pay you, right? Because let me show you who you're competing with, right? So this is someone that I met with earlier today. One second here. Robbie Kedgeton, right? Robbie, motivational speaker. When I type in his name, look, his photos come up. This dude climbed Mount Everest. Great story. He's everywhere. He's been in Men's Magazine. He's climbed the Great Wall of China. He's done everything with no feet. Right? So this is who you compete with. We just got to build your story so that when they Google you, they find you and they're like, oh, okay. He is a speaker. He's overcome some things. This is why we want him.
All right.
Does that make sense? So
yeah,
just got to trust the process. Or either I can send you the gun and the ski mask. And
no, I got that. But I choose a different path. I already got that shit. We're good, man. I'll play the game a little bit longer and we'll see what happens.
I mean, again, we went from something that wasn't working into something that you're now getting results in the first stages, and you just keep going. It's part of it, right? But good to see everybody. We're 15 minutes in. High five, Ian, on number one, the resilience from that first email to not let it knock you out the box, but sending enough so that you would get enough responses to overwhelm that one idiot that decide. Like, what type of loser has the time to even reply to that? Like, you got to be just a loser to sit back and to sit here and overanalyze. And so you avoided probably a dumpster fire anyway by not even going on that podcast. Like, I could probably look up his podcast, probably have 100 views, and he's acting like he's Joe Rogan. Like Joe Rogan would even say that to you, right? So, I mean, you just got to watch out for the idiots and just look at it as a sign that you avoided a bunch of BS. So, Robert, what's your question?
So I kind of wanted to just follow up on that and say, walk me through the rest of that process. So how do we leverage podcasts in the next piece? Because I firmly believe in the system. You know the drill, right? I told you that
100%.
before.
Yep, I'll
before
show
we
you.
came back
I'll
on.
walk. That'll be our topic for the day. Jasmine, question?
I got her. Mid-bite.
Get a piece of banana. I'm having my fruit for the day. No, I just wanted to add on to what Ian was saying, is that from the podcast, I've been, getting podcasts. Anyone that interviewed me has booked me. But from the bookings, they're already saying to me, there's a summit coming up, which is paid. Would you be able to be on that summit? Or, I spoke to an exciting guy who was all about corporate business, and he was into business owners. But I always find a way to infuse my health and wellness, because you got to be healthy, into it. And he goes, I've never looked at it from this point of view. And because you have convinced me to say, corporate health and wellness is not just as is corporate health and wellness. They all ties into the business aspect. So there's a group of people in Toronto that we're all hardcore business owners that I want you to be in. Very lucrative. So that's what, is going to happen to Ian. Like, I have friends who say to me, I said, I can't speak to you tomorrow. I have a training seminar I do on lunch, and I have seminars. I have podcast book in the morning and in the afternoon. And, they say, well, do you get paid? And I say, absolutely. When you see me, flying off to Kalamazoo or doing whatever I'm going to be doing, don't ask me how I get the money, because I'm putting in the work right now. Just as the same people, when you're building a fitness club, when is it going to be finished? When is it going to be finished? When it finishes, you will get paid. It takes time. So you hang in there. And I told you before, you've got an amazing story. Okay. In my community, I'm writing an article. Commands is working with me, an article for Essence magazine. And it's all about wellness, with Black women, hypertension, diabetes. We all think that's our fate and all that stuff. But it is like rampant in our community. Is it because they've accepted it as the norm? Are there ways to go around that? So this is what's going to happen with his story of going out there and say, I'm a young man at 35 years old, and this is all the crap I've gone through. Wait till it takes off. Mark my word. I'm a very good sense of what leads to infinity. Watch, Ian.
No, I appreciate that, Jasmine. I think that makes a lot of sense. And I'm glad that you shared real life examples, right? It's one thing, me as the host saying, do this all the time, but it's another thing to have the folks who have lived it talking about it and sharing their results, because it's hard to argue with results, right? We can argue with dreams. We can argue with how we imagine things to be, but you can't tell Jasmine that she's not doing what she's doing. She knows she's doing it. So I want to get into Robert's topic, because I think it's something that everyone here, a lot of you all have heard me talk about this before, which is how do you convert from a podcast, right? So that goes back into our talk about modalities. So let me bring that up, and I want to address modalities and how, depending on which stage you're on, how do you convert from that stage? So give me a second here. Right? So depending on which stage you're on, that determines what product you should be talking about, right? So I would never go on a podcast expecting to get booked for a speaking gig by someone who was listening to the podcast, because the person who I am, the speaking gig was hosted by the podcast host, and their audience is who I'm speaking to. So the podcast is already the speaking gig. Does that make sense? So I need to have something for the audience to buy, since the podcaster is paying me with referrals. Whenever you go on a podcast, he's giving you a hand-to-hand 1 hour referral. And I'll give you a copy of this, Ian. He's giving you a hand-to-hand 1 hour referral to however many people listen to that podcast. Is that fair? Right? Now, if I'm doing something that's virtual, I got to have the product. My product offering has to match the audience. And since I'm not talking to corporations while I'm on a podcast 99% of the time, I got to have my individual products. So I got to have free trials of our software. I got to have a checklist to download. I got to have a free trial of a course. I got to have hey, come get a coaching session with me. I got to have something, a webinar, a book, a download, something for them to download from me going on that show. Now, you all know that I don't discriminate when it comes to podcasts. I'm going on any podcast, right? So Pam Perry, we had 28 views. You see that? But what's right there? My link and my call to action. She ain't put nothing else. She put that link there though, right? So how many people you think signed up from this? A lot of you already know this, but Robert, since it's your question, how many people you think signed up out of these 28 for our software using that link?
Let's say 2.
Okay. So we signed up 8, right? Here's another one. I was on her podcast a year before, but this was before I owned SpeakerHub. So we were using the PitchDB link. How many people watched that episode? 164. You see that?
Yep.
Right? How many sales do you think we made from there? I'll bring it up right here. Paper
I was
form.
about to say.
What's your guess, Robert? Again, we're gonna focus on you.
Let's go
because that was
50.
your question. Huh?
Let's say 50.
73. Right? And that wasn't a free download. That was paid. They bought, 73 people bought from that podcast episode with 163 people. Now, why is that important? I didn't just start doing podcasts yesterday. I had to practice. I was shitty at the beginning, right? You look at me from a long time ago when I was on the Agency Growth Podcast years ago. Let me put parentheses around my name because it keeps bringing up other story and like it trips the wires on there, right? So you'll see all of these podcasts that I've gone on, right? We built an entire business off of me going on these podcasts, right? You go all the way back. I mean, I've been doing this for a while. So this podcast right here, terrible. I mean, it is the worst episode, but it was my first one. Jason Cass invited me on it. I was still in the insurance business at the time. Right? So we talking about how do you grow insurance agencies. And like my company was called Lead Warmer. I mean, this is so long ago, but I had to get better. Now, this 2014. What y'all don't understand is that I've recorded 200 other podcasts that I never published myself. Well, I interviewed people so I could understand the perspective of what people would be asking me for. And I can feel if it made me uncomfortable if I pitched a product on the podcast. And how do I go about introducing myself or a product? Now, I'm going to tell you the way to do it. And this is the best way to pitch a product without being salesy. It's called the dog whistle. Do anybody know what a dog whistle is? You want to guess? I know I've taught this before. What's a dog whistle in real life, like the real dog whistle, Robert?
Yeah, a real dog whistle is a whistle that rings at a pitch or a decibel level that only dogs can hear. Humans can't hear it, so it doesn't sound like you blowing anything, but a dog hears that you're blowing the whistle.
Exactly. My customers hear it. When I say what I'm going to say, they hear it. And they like, oh, I like this dude, right? So what I'll do is all of my examples are real life examples. So what I'll say is, yo, one day I was talking to one of my consulting clients and he was having this issue with generating leads from getting on podcasts. So I walked him through the basic 3-step formula that I'm going to teach you all right now. Now, what did I just dog whistle to the right person? That I do consulting.
I coach and consult, yeah.
You see that? I didn't have to say, hey, you all know I got a consulting thing. No, I just used the dog whistle to give the example. Right? So people say, man, what do you do? Oh, I help speakers to get booked. How? Right? So we got to have our 10 seconds, our 30 seconds, and our 3-minute talk. Because you embed the dog whistle in the 30-second part. I do this. Really? Tell me more. Well, I got a client that did this. When I was running this company, we did this. When I bought this company, I did this. When I had this conversation with this person, I did this. I didn't mention their name. I didn't mention the company. I just dropped the dog whistle for the person that was interested. And then I teach the thing. Why? Because I need them to imagine, damn, if that's how he worked with, that could work for me. So understanding what you do and being able to get it down into a 10-second soundbite to pique interest, a 30-second soundbite to set it up, and then a 3-minute story is how you sell on podcast. Does that make sense? So
it makes perfect sense.
Robert, we're going to make you the subject today.
All right.
I want you to interview me we're going to do 4 minutes. Just do a role play interview and watch how I can get in and out of stories. That's why I'm telling you all, whatever your framework is, you got to know how to get in and out of that framework from every angle. That's why I keep saying, get on more stages. Because if you don't know how to get in and out of the frameworks, they're going to catch you. And you're going to be caught off guard and you're going to miss an opportunity to promote. Right? So I can get into my story from any angle. So Robert, you can start wherever you want in the podcast. You can be an asshole to me too. I don't care. I will figure it out how to make. I've been invited on podcasts where they tried to argue with me, and I'm like, dude, you know I'm better than this than you, right? I'm better at this than what you are. So let's just kind of role play it. And I'm
All
on your
right,
show.
so let's go. So Ron, thank you for being here. Really appreciate you being on the cast. I want you to go ahead. Can you tell the audience a little bit about, what you do and how you help the clients that you help?
Yeah. If somebody offered you $5,000 to come tell them what you do, would you take it?
Definitely.
Yeah, that's what I help people to do. I help our speakers to get booked on paid speaking gigs, podcasts, and press coverage. You see, I gave him my 5 seconds, then I gave him my 30 seconds. Now, you know what he's about to say? How? I know what he's about to say. The next question is how? Boom. Now I got my 3 minutes.
So right, that sounds amazing. And there's a lot of people out there saying get people booked. You see all these things on YouTube, and everybody's a coach and a consultant and all the rest of it. So how do you stand out from the rest of the people that are in the industry?
Most of the people who are teaching how to get booked for paid speaking gigs and podcasts, they're all former speakers. They've never booked anybody besides themselves. What makes me unique is that I'm not a speaker. I spent the last 6 years, I worked with over 1,000 clients. I booked over 10,000 meetings for those clients and let them negotiate themselves. And we didn't take one fee from them. They just paid us for the service, right? So we don't take any commission or anything like that. So we're basically an easy way to give anybody a chance to get booked to tell their story. Whether you're famous or whether you're unknown, we've helped all of them, right? That's my thing. Y'all heard me say that every day on this daggone live, right? It's the same thing, but I can get in it however, no matter how he wants to ask the question, I got to be able to get into it. Why? Because what did he ask? What's the difference between you and everybody else? So I got to answer that and then get into what I want to tell him. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna go where you're going. You want to know about my competition? They were speakers. Here's the difference between me and them. They've only booked themselves. I booked over 1,000 speakers. Huge contrast. Well, yeah, they were famous. I see it. Yeah, that guy, he already knows. So of course it worked for him. Yeah, I've worked with the beginners and the experts. And they're like, holy crap. Okay, dog whistle. I'm dropping them in there. That's all that you're trying to do. But do you see the example? Is this making sense?
Yeah,
A
no,
lot
it's
of
good.
us have
I guess
gone
one
on
question,
podcasts.
non-podcast
But
question, but actual legitimate question is when you're going through that process, how do you develop, how do you make it shorter? How do you make it succinct to the particular things that you need to say to your audience instead of just kind of rambling?
Yep. So the thing about it is that I already have the stories. If you listen to most of us, we tell the same 5 to 10 stories to everybody we know. We just have never documented them. So we don't know the entry and the exit points or which one to go to. So I got my stories already documented out, right? And I know how to get in them and get out of them, right? So that was a company years ago called Banff. And I probably should hit up the guy to see if I can share this with you guys. But he shared this 300 ways to get in and out of a story. And it was these frameworks, and it showed all of these, tell this story, good guy goes, good guy gone bad, bad guy gone good, prodigal son comes back home. And he gives you all these different ways to tell your story. And it's based on fact, because he just says, tell this part and then tell why, and then bring it back to this. You're like, dude, I got it. So I didn't use all 300 of them. I found the 5 that I like. And I use those freaking 5 over and over and over and over again. So one of the things that we talked about a month and a half ago when we went over this is write out your 10 stories, the 10 stories that you tell all the time. Write out the 10-second intro to it. Write out the 30-second version of it, and then write out the 3-minute part of it. Now, when I say 10 seconds, that's max 10 seconds. It doesn't have to be 10 seconds, it's max.
Yeah, that's kind of the one sentence, right?
Yeah, my one sentence with you was, yo, if I offered you $5,000 to come tell what you do, would you do it? Yeah, cool. Now I just made you an ally, right? So I know the rest of your stuff can't be confrontational, and I've included you in the storytelling.
Yeah.
I just disarmed you for the rest of the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But that's we have to get better at telling stories. And I don't just say that because that's my last name. I've heard the joke my whole life. Has no relevancy. This is practice. My name should be Ron Practice, Ron Failure, Ron Fuck Up, because that's probably more accurate than Ron Story. I'm just being real. I've broken a lot of stuff. Right?
Yeah.
Any other questions about that? Any questions about the basic technique of 10 seconds, 30 seconds, 3 minutes? That's how you answer questions on podcasts. Darren.
Hey, Ron, yesterday you talked about in the future those three categories of speakers and the trainings, right? So kind of similar to Robert, man, will we be able to do some more extensive role playing with one another, or just being able to gather those types of techniques for someone like myself, and sounds like Robert also as an emerging person in this industry?
Yeah. So one of the great things that's happening in April is we're opening up our community for the first time, where we have segmented speakers based on the plan that you have with us, and you'll have teachings that are just for you at that plan level. Does that make sense? So we'll have our emerging speaker group, we'll have our experienced speaker group, and we'll have our expert speaker group. And one of the part of the responsibilities of the people in the other groups is, hey, if you want, you can go and teach something down to the younger folks, or you can put some trainings down there so that you can practice the things that we're teaching you up top to show them, because we know when people are better than us, especially men. Men know when somebody's better than us. We don't deal with a lot of the delusion. So I'm speaking from a male point of view. I know when somebody's taller than me, I'll be like, damn, that dude tall, right? We know when somebody may beat us up. So we like, let me not argue with him because I don't want to fight with him. But as guys, as a point of survival, we have to be a great judge of that, right? But business, because it's male dominated 90% of the time, and it was built by men, the same kind of culture is already there, where you kind of got to recognize I'm not that good yet in order for it to work. Does that make sense? But those other folks who realize, hey, I'm not that good, but I'm better than this person, let me help them. And then I'm going to go get help from this person. So we're going to be separating people out because the exploring speaker does not have their intellectual property dialed in yet. They're just randomly talking about stuff, right? The emerging speaker may have the basis of a framework. Robert mentioned he had 2 frameworks yesterday. You all know we put the framework generator in because we knew that exploring speakers didn't have frameworks. Is this making sense? Mia, good to see you. Sorry for not letting you introduce yourself. Give me 2 minutes. I got to keep up our tradition of letting new people introduce themselves. But the emerging speaker, they have a framework, but it ain't dialed in yet, right? But they need to work on stage presence and a lot of other things that the experienced speaker already has. The experienced speaker needs staff. They need to know how to hire people, put in the right systems. How can they double the amount of bookings and raise their fees? Right? The expert speaker is like, dude, I need not only staff, I need a marketing team. I need to develop this course. I need to develop this consulting thing because I'm already making 6 figures from the stage, but I got 2 kids. I don't want to be in the airport 5 days a week. So I want to keep my income going, but I got to start transitioning some of this over into products and services. Does this make sense? So it's not fair for me to talk about products and services and hiring to somebody who don't even know what their signature speech is. We wasted everybody's time. We talking over their head and we talking down to the experienced folks. Is this making sense? Right? So like Nicole's here. Nicole's been speaking for a while. Nicole has a lot of experience doing consulting. Her and I have had conversations about her teaching how did she build keen insights, right? So these are the things that we're talking about. Like, how do we take the folks that are a little bit ahead, like Lethea or Vernice or Odell or Chris Salem or any of the folks I know everybody, and have them to come in every once in a while, just drop like one gem. Vernice didn't have to say a lot. She just, only thing if you didn't hear anything else she said, all you should have understood was I could raise my price. if you ain't getting nothing else, if you didn't watch that the other day, go back and watch the call from Tuesday. It's either Tuesday or Wednesday, the morning call. She got on a hat and she talked about how she went from 2,500 to 50,000. If that didn't inspire you, something wrong. Right? And then we took it a step further and said, that's great. She is a 7-figure speaker, but let me show you 9-figure intellectual property. Because that's what she needs to start working on. That's the level of business I got to show her. Because she was like, I didn't know they was making that much. Yes, Vernice, Fly Girl, we need you with 30, 40 million. Why didn't she? Bart was like, she should have jackets. She need a merch business with the Fly Girl bomber jackets. She probably ain't never thought about that. But that's part of being in business. Look, if you come on this call and you still consider yourself a speaker, you've lost. This ain't for speakers. This is for IP owners that are going to take their intellectual property and take it to the max through consulting, speaking, products, software, everything. That's what we're aiming to build you guys into, right? And you can do it too, Ian, right? Your background with what you've done, bruh, incredible. What you've done with the businesses that you've run beforehand. Did that answer your question, Darren? Darren Franklin, you were asking about how we're going to do that. We're going to be dividing you into groups. We're just waiting on Gustavo to finish up the product, but it's different communities inside. Janika?
Ron, I want to say that one of the things that I have found and people have said for quite a while is that you have to tell your story. And that was something that was always a problem for me in terms of understanding what it meant to tell your story. And being on all of the podcasts that I have been going on, the more you do it, you perfect your story. And that's what I'm finding. And now it's almost becoming a signature for me in terms of as I ask questions and how I can wrap it back in. And so I just shared that what you said is very valuable in understanding. And also just finding what a story, for me, a story is examples of what I do. And I put it in a story form. It's not necessarily that it's somebody who did it, but to be able to explain the example that paints a picture that everybody can see and walk away. Oh, that makes sense. So the more you do it, the more you perfect it. And that's what's happening with me from the worst one I did to the first one to where I'm at now. It's a growing process.
Exactly. No, I think you hit it right on the head. And the great way to tell a story, because we know the stories, but a lot of time we can't reveal the characters, right? For privacy reasons and respect of our friends, we don't say their names. But we can say I was working with a client. I was working with a consulting client. I helped one person, an older person that did this, or a younger person, to add context so that the person that listens, they hear that dog whistle and they put themselves in that seat. And they said, if she could do it for them, I promise you this will probably work for me. I heard Ian's story. Instantly, I heard my uncles and my brother-in-law, right? If it worked for Ian, I got some positive outlooks that my uncle can recover, right?
You're supposed to me, Ron.
Yeah, I will. I got you. I got you. We'll be in contact. I promise you, right? But that's really where we are. So Mia, I want you to introduce yourself really quickly. If you want to, Mia Ferguson, welcome aboard. I am Ron Story, the owner, chief bottle washer, janitor, and hot dog cook for SpeakerHub. And you want to introduce yourself and tell us what you do?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Glad to be able to join. I am a business owner. I own a lighting distribution and design firm, and I was invited through Miss Ann McNeil. I'm a part of an organization with her, and I work with her very closely, and she invited me to join, and I am loving what I'm hearing and looking forward to coming back to join again because it's very good information, and I'm just excited to be able to work with such a great group of people who have great ideas to share.
Cool. Well, you're always welcome. You can come back any day. We don't charge to come to the call. We do it 3 times a day starting Monday. You're always welcome. We want to make sure that if you have a message to share, whether it's about your lighting company, whether how you start, how many people wish they could start a lighting company? Like, go tell that story. You know how many people want to work with Black women-owned lighting, electrical contracting companies? Go tell that story. Some people will work with you just because of that, right? But if they don't know that you exist, right? So me and one of my college buddies, and Robert knows Jeff, we all hung out together in school. Jeff hit me up and he said, Ron, I got this minority supplier thing. I can supply anything to any construction thing. I just don't know how to get customers. You know what we did? We emailed everybody who had supplier diversity quotas. Because they got quotas in order to get certain contracts. They got to sell to so many people or they got to buy stuff. Boom. They was like, yep, we need it. Next thing you know, all these people were just meeting with him for him to be their supplier. Just because in order to get state funds, they have these supplier diversity minimums that they have to, a certain percentage of the job has to be there, right? So I can help you with that if that's something you're interested in, right? But again, you see that? I just gave the dog whistle, relevant to what she was saying. I told a story in 30 seconds. I gave a relevant person so she can imagine the same thing. This is all we're doing, guys. We got to learn how to tell great stories that are interesting, but quick. All the details ain't always necessary, right? Hook, story, offer. Hook, story, offer, right? Lawrence, what's up, man? 30 seconds. What's going on?
Yep. So my question is about when I was signing up for the speaker page, I put my card on there and it said it couldn't process it. Do you know why that could be?
What is for the speaker page?
Yeah.
Okay, don't worry about it. I'll just upgrade it for you. You're in the scholarship program. Don't worry about putting your card in it. We'll just get it upgraded for you.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, perfect. You're good. Chantel, what's up?
Hey, Ron. Hi, everybody else. Hey, Angela. I was up at 1:00 in the morning. I did a podcast. The guy, he was from Germany, so it was 10:00 his time. And I've done a lot of podcasts, and his podcast was 8 minutes because he said that that's the average time that they're watching podcasts in Germany. So it was happening super quick. And it went well, but that was the fastest podcast I've ever done. And I would like to give a shout out to my company because today's my company's birthday. Yesterday was my great grandmother's birthday. She lived to be 104 years old. That's my inspiration. And so I'm just wanting to just spread that love and just telling everybody just to keep going. And that was my first time working with somebody in Germany. And he was like, okay, Chantel, now next. Okay, it's over. I said, well, I'll be there. I stayed up till 1:00 in the morning for this.
Yeah, but what you're doing is proving that you got to be able to tell the 10-second, the 30-second, and the 3-minute. You may not always be able to get into the 3-minute story all the time. Sometimes you just got to drop the punchline on them, right?
That's
Sometimes you got 30 seconds to go a little bit of the details, and then because you want to be able to get your story out, but also what I call twist the knife. Everybody has pain, but they've gotten used to the pain that they've been living with. But when you twist that knife again, it reopens it. Now, let me talk. I'm talking about from a business perspective. I try to stay away from this with the psychology and the trauma thing because a lot of speakers come up, they tell their story, they take the listener down into the valley of despair, and they're not skilled enough to get them out, which is why they can't get corporate gigs. Because y'all going in, oh, this happened to me when I was 6. And they like, dude, we about to have you come here and wake up something that one of our employees done embedded. They done got over it, and now you done woken it up in them. They in the back crying. We got a lawsuit on our hands. So all of our psychology speakers are positive thought or resilience. Be sure that you get someone to train you on how to bring people out of that valley of despair. Because if you leave them there, you're going to need errors and omissions insurance. You're going to need errors and omissions insurance when they sue you for the trauma you caused at that speaking gig. So being able to get into that 30-second speech, twist the knife and get out, give them the remedy. So my job is to find the knife, twist it, and offer them stitches or offer them a Tylenol, right? Your business should be that lidocaine, Tylenol, morphine, whatever painkiller that they need at that point in time. I know Jadika don't like that because Jadika say, no, you got to tell them to massage this bone right here. And that make the pain go away. She is anti-medicine, but that's cool. Any other questions? We're 47 minutes in. This has been a good day. I love this topic. We had a great celebration with Ian at the beginning, great lessons in role playing with Robert. Any other questions as we go into the last 12 minutes? Go ahead, Ian, 30 seconds.
So how do we develop a 10-second, a 30-second, and a 3-minute that we can practice on our own and have it on repeat? So whatever situation we find ourselves in, a 10-second pitch, we can throw that one out.
Yep. So let me walk you through it really quickly. What type of business did you used to own?
One remodeling was one.
Remodeling, right? So in 10 seconds, tell me, let's act as if you're still in that business. So Ian, what do you do? 10 seconds.
Remodeling, kitchens, baths, basements, additions.
Okay. And you do that for nationwide or just locally?
No, just locally.
Okay. Right. So 2 things I'll show you right there. Ian, what do you do? Oh, I own a company that helps people locally to remodel their house, all of that stuff. You see all the fancy stuff that you see on Home and Gardens or HGTV? I do that.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to tell them what you do, give them a point of reference that you think they know, and then identify that you do that. That's your 10-second. Is that good?
Yep.
For the 30-second, you go a little bit further into it. A lot of people may think that it costs millions of dollars to get a really nice looking bathroom or kitchen. But with the process that we use, we don't have to go through any of that. We're able to save you some time, save you some money, but make it look like $1 million. You see that? That was 15 seconds, right?
So you're 10 seconds, you're identifying, 30 seconds, you're adding your value to what you've identified.
Exactly. Right. And then the 3 minutes is where you give the steps on how they can accomplish it.
Okay.
That's with every story. 10-second hook, 30-second, get it a little bit in, and then 3 minutes is the details. You always want them to say, oh, really? How? Oh, really? How'd you do that? What was that about? So you're kind of preempting the next question. Got it?
Yeah.
Nicole, what's going on? Good to see you.
Okay. All right. I'm not techie. Well, I need to rephrase. I'm becoming techie. Podcasts. So I've been doing a lot of the podcasts. Are there paid podcasts? Because most of them are free, and I've had a couple want me to pay, which I will not.
Yep. So podcasts are traditionally free because the people who are going to pay you are the people that are in the audience. So if you think of the podcaster as the event host, right? So that's what we were talking about here. And let's close up with that. I'm glad you circled back because we were on this page and then we went off, right? So when you're doing a podcast, this is the type of product you're offering. Does that make sense? Something that is for individual clients. A book, a consulting, a course, something for individual clients. When you're doing live, where you go talk at an association, you're going to be offering things in a group setting. Can I come speak at your place? Can I do a workshop for your management? Can I do a training for your audience? Can I speak at your bigger conference to be the motivational speaker? Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah, that's what I've been doing, is offering the book.
Yep.
After the podcast.
But you got to get a way for them to download something for free and give you a rating. So use your speaker QR and put maybe the first chapter of the book or a PDF version of the book and pass that link on to the podcaster.
Okay.
Right? So when you do speaker QR, we're going to give you the QR code, but there's also the link down here at the bottom. And that's the link that you saw here in the show notes with me and Pam.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep. So I got to go research and figure that out.
Yep. But yeah, it's all in there. It's just go to click on leads and
Mhm.
all the instructions are right there. When the first time, we give you the instructions right on the page on how to do it.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. So let's go back to these modalities. When you're virtual, it's for individuals. When you're live, it is for groups or things of that sort. Unless you're talking at a consumer-based conference, but most of the time, you're going to be offering things that are a bit more group focused. When you're in the media, you're reinforcing that you are who you say you are. If I write an article, I'm probably not going to get any clients out of that article, but I can send that article to my clients. When people Google me and they're looking for me as a speaker, they can say, oh man, he was in Forbes, he was in Wall Street Journal. Holy crap, we need this guy. So media reinforces what I'm doing. It could be for lead generation, but it's really a reinforcer that you are who you say you are. Right? So I'm going to share this with you guys. I'll put the link here in the bio. No, I'm just kidding. I sound like somebody on OnlyFans. Put this. There you go. There's the link in the chat. Janika.
I feel like
Yes, Ron, I have a real quick question
like
about the QR code.
Mhm.
Should that be put on your download that you give out? Should the QR code be put there, or should the QR code be sent with the information you send to the podcast host?
So you want to send that to the podcast host. You want to give him the link. You remember I told you that there's,
Yes.
I just mentioned that not only do you get the code, but there's a link here too, right? There's the link right there. You just copy that link, and that link is going to bring them.
And then I put myself, I said, I'm actually.
You can see it. It's right here
Okay.
in there. Got it?
Okay. Thank you.
Yep, we got you. All right. So, but that's the reason that we do that. So we not only the code that you could use, like Ange has hers up in the back, Darren has his in the back. Different people will put those. Jadika has hers over there, right? You can put those in the back if you're doing virtual, so that people could just scan you off of YouTube. But at the same time, you want it in the show notes. Make sense? Any other questions? Robert, did this answer to give you the basics of how we do it? It's basically dog whistling so that they don't get mad that I'm pitching. And then we're going to close it out with the last part. So I got to have my story right with the dog whistles. But at the end, when they say, how do they find you? Most of us say, just follow me at Ron Story Jr. on Instagram. But that ain't a call to action. That is weak. That is terrible, right? So the call to action at the end is where the money resides, right? So for me, it's, hey, and here's how you kind of trap the podcast host. What you say is, hey, there's going to be a link in the bio that'll give you access to the checklist that I mentioned earlier in this podcast. Now the daggone host is like, shoot, I got to put this in there. Either I got to cut this out. And they never going to cut it out. So they end up having to put the link in the bio anyway.
Brian, you
right?
mean the link in the show notes?
Yeah, that's the
link
same
in
thing.
the bio.
Hey, look, man, that's my side career. For those who don't know, you can follow me on OF.
You selling feet and knuckles?
hey, I'm selling whatever they buying, whatever they buying. Elbows and wrist photos for $40, right? But moral of the story is that you tell them, hey, I put my, the link will be in the show descriptions, in the show notes for you to be able to download this. Or if you want to talk to me directly, you can find me at Ron Story Jr. on LinkedIn. Send me a note and I will follow up with you. Now, how effective is that? Well, the people that follow you that end up hitting you up on LinkedIn, they're very good. And I'll tell you why. Because they're already qualified. They've already listened to you for a half hour. So they're already pre-sold. Right? I ain't got to convince them. They pre-sold already. Claudine, y'all seen Claudine on here. Claudine came from seeing me on a podcast I was on 2 years ago. She comes in this meeting once every 2 weeks or so. She said, hey, I saw a video of you on YouTube about how to get more speaking gigs, right? But that came from her seeing me on a podcast. Greg Adaka. Saw you on Chantel Henry's podcast on YouTube. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So those folks are already in. They ask you, how can I get what you're selling? Because they already heard me for an hour. So if you've done your job of telling great stories, giving great tips, becoming relatable, and then when you give the call to action, they're like, yeah, I want that. That's what I'm missing. I don't have the time. I'd rather pay you all to do it. So that call to action is really important. Nicole, I'm going to answer your question, and then I'm going to show you all where those things are inside. We've already answered these for you inside of your SpeakerHub Pro. Nicole, what's up?
Okay, last thing. With the call to action, do you recommend having a free download or selling your book? Because those are the things right now that
So
I'm
here's
doing.
the thing. If I offer my book and they don't buy it, I lose a lead.
Mhm.
If I get a lead, I can always offer my book in the future.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Now,
Yep.
I can show you how to do both. And Jadika will tell you about this. Jadika, how you do both? When should you talk? If you got a book, when should you mention it? Should you wait to the last 2 minutes? When should you mention your book?
According to Ron's instruction to all of us, your book should be mentioned in the beginning of your podcast, not at the end.
Yep. So your call to action actually happens the first time in the beginning. Hey, I'm going to give you all a checklist that explains this, right? Even if you don't have the checklist written yet, the podcast ain't live. So you got 2 days to figure out the checklist or whatever you're going to give them. Does that make sense? It's going to be a week before this podcast come out. So you go and put that crap together and say, boom, here's my thing for y'all. Right? So at the beginning, I'm a firm believer that I want to lead first. Right? And then I can always make the sale. Now, I'll tell you, one of the best things out there is something called paper form. I don't get paid for saying this, but I've used them now for maybe 6 years. Paper form has something that's called incomplete fields. If a person started typing in the thing, it saves it.
Mm-hmm.
So I get to see the people that didn't buy. And then we send them an email saying, hey, man, dude, I think something might have been wrong with our website because evidently you weren't able to complete your purchase. If you're still interested, here's the link. I know that they didn't get to the last page, but I can't say, we saw you didn't fill out the last thing, because now I sound like a weirdo, right? But with paper form, they have incomplete fields. I think some of the other ones out there, type form, may have that also. But you want to get the fields for the people that didn't fill it all the way out. Does that make sense?
It does. Thank you.
So let me show you how you can do your calls to actions. A lot of y'all don't know how to do them. So what you do, you come over here to branding kit. You come down here to frameworks, and you have a framework, your master framework, your signature talk framework, but we give you calls to actions. Right? You can pick any of these, not all of them. Right? So, Robert, today what I want to do is I want to give you my checklist on how to connect authentically with audiences. Now I can just get into the call to action at that point. You notice I'm not using all of those. I want to give you our framework on how you can collaborate with others who are experts just like you so that you're building collaboration versus competition. That's a great call to action. That's what, because people want to know what's the next step. How do I take the next step with you? Now, you have this whole list because you don't know where the podcast is going to go. And if he takes me down this path, boom, I got this. If he takes me down that path, I got this. That's how you do it. Because you don't want to have a call to action that ain't even relevant to what y'all talked about. Make sense? So that's what's there. If you don't know how to engage with your people, here's an engagement framework, right? Here's a way for you to start thinking through that. What can you offer, right? So that's what all of that is here. If you need ideas of what products to create, you can offer them a webinar, an ebook, a checklist, a newsletter, a guidebook. We give you all of this stuff. All you do is click rewrite and it'll rewrite one for you based on what you're talking about and your audience. Anybody else been using the frameworks?
I got a question about it, Ron.
Yep, go ahead.
So look, man, as you mentioned, obviously I'm a former teacher, so I'm always about the teach model, right? Like you talked about earlier. Man, when you're developing those trainings for the different levels of speakers, man, can we have opportunities, not just from you, but from people who are using those frameworks and using those profiles, man, because there's so much, right? And you guys have done an awesome job of building and giving us tools. But just like anybody that's new to something, and I'm thinking about that new student in Algebra 1 that ain't passed the math course ever in life, if I don't give them bits and pieces based on their developmental level, they get overwhelmed and they quit on me. Yeah. So if you guys have not thought about it, man, as you put together those lessons and trainings for the different categories, man, could using the speaker profile be in those lessons, please?
Yep. Here's the great thing. Darren, why don't you help us, right? Come and help us, walk us through what you feel like you're missing so we make sure that, because here's the thing. I got the whole business to run, right? So I'm not thinking all of those things. So anything that you all want to volunteer, that's why we do this call. But on this call, we usually have a variety of people. So I can't like go through the basics. That's why we removed the support. We don't do support on this call anymore because the folks who already understood the support stuff, it's like, dude, you already got a channel for support. Why are we? I came here to learn. I come here every day for lunch to be able to get better. I don't need to know how to, edit an email. I want to learn the real stuff. So work with us on the things that you think would be better for emerging speakers.
I'll do that. I got you.
And I'll have some, if you're exploring, work with us on the things you think you need at that exploring level. And we'll reach out to you all. We're always open. We are wide open, again, Nicole was on here. She'll tell you, I reached out like, Nicole, I'm on here talking too much. I need some videos for women teaching this stuff because they don't want to hear me all the time. You can say the same thing, but just in a lighter way, and they'll appreciate it more than hearing me scream at them. Because everybody don't want to be coached like I coach. So we're trying to build SpeakerHub that's, international, large. I used to joke and say, we don't want to turn it into an HBCU. Nothing against HBCUs, but we look at the photos on here, we see it's kind of what it's become. Right? So see you later, Chantel. So, but this is what we're trying to build. We're trying to build something that works for the 80% of the middle. 10% of people, they're going to kind of be annoyed. Oh, I'm going to be here. Sharon, I'm going to be here. I promise you. I ain't going nowhere. Right? I'm going to be here. But we gotta fix, we're going to miss some folks. Right? But we're going to try to capture as many as we can. Right? So we're 4 minutes into overtime. I appreciate everybody for coming, and hopefully you took something away from this call. To kind of give you a quick recap, you should be working on your stories all the time. You're a speaker. A speaker that can't tell a good story is a terrible speaker. What were you going to say, Kevin? Okay, yeah, you should be working on your three-part story, all 10 of them, 10-second, 30-second, 3 minutes. So you should have 10 of those that you can get in and out of. You should be able to understand how to make your call to actions with dog whistles. Nobody wants to listen to a 45-minute infomercial about your company. But if you can drop the gems in there, people engage and they work with you. Talk about what you've done or what they're going to get as the download at your call to action at the beginning and at the end. That way, the people who don't stay beyond the 8 minutes, like Chantel talked about, they can still get that thing, even if they don't stay the whole 45 minutes of the talk. Does that make sense? So that's how I've regularly have generated leads and sales. We built an entire business called PitchDB based on me doing Facebook Lives and podcast interviews. I didn't run one Facebook ad, nothing. We interviewed the hell out of people, or we got interviewed by people. And that's how I built the business. So any other questions, Ange, anything in the chat that I've overlooked? Ange, let's see, what time is my next call? I got literally 7 minutes before my next call. So anything else?
Nothing in the
Rob,
chat.
good to see you. All right. Oh, the chat was quiet today. 5 messages.
You answered all the questions, and it was a lot of people supporting. Oh, there is one thing I'll mention. This it's not a question, but it's worth stating. AJ said that he spoke at the event today, that the event planner from the Computer Sciences Institute, that had an event today. So for everyone who, I don't know if everyone was here, but 2 months ago, there was a professor from a university who hopped on this call, and they were looking for speakers for their event. And AJ and a few other people reached out to the university, and they had the event this weekend. And so that was the first time an event planner was on here. Ron and I had a follow-up call with the university, and they just emailed me that they're doing some things in the spring and they're going to need speakers. So we're very
AJ, he
excited
sent me a
about
message afterwards. He was like, dude, it was 300 people on this call. So it was a webinar style thing. But there was 300 people in attendance. So he was pretty excited about that. Any other questions? Allure Unique. Have you introduced? I think you introduced yourself before.
Yes, sir, I did.
Confused when okay.
Yes,
yeah,
I did.
I'd be confused when I can't see people's face. Mia, hopefully you felt like you was at home.
So I have a question about that university. What was the name of it?
And what was the name of the university?
Yeah.
You're muted. We can't hear you.
Computer Science Institute. Let me see.
Okay.
No, Computer Systems Institute. Computer Systems Institute.
Okay, yeah. Depending on what that event is for, that might be a little out of my niche.
Well,
yeah, that's all good.
The amazing thing is this specific person, they knew the topics that they wanted. So they came in and said, we're looking for people to talk about these 5 or 10 topics. And it was incredible.
So one of the things we're going to be doing in Q2, right? After we get product, which is the Pro Speaker Summit for the spring, the focus is on product. How do you develop a product to sell? Our focus in the second quarter is all on building our event planner tools. So I'll be the same attention that I'm giving to the speakers right now. We will be putting some of that attention on the event planners and developing the relationships with them so that they can more actively participate in the community that we're building. Right? So it's one thing to have a community with speakers in it, but it's another thing to have a community with event planners. So I'll kind of show you this really quickly in the last couple of seconds here. Let me make sure I ain't about to show something crazy on this screen. Yep, that's SpeakerHub Pro. Cool. So when we go in here to speaker launch, right? So the community basically will have an activity board, just like you do on LinkedIn and every other system that's out there. So this activity board will allow for you to share where you're speaking for other people. You see mine says upcoming events. I can put the upcoming speaking gigs that I have right here, and you all could check them out if you want, but I can put different things in here. Show me speaking at events. The event planners can post their expos or whatever they have coming up. We can start, it'll be a feed where you'll be able to go in. Darren, you asked about different things. Over here on the left, there will be our different communities, our emerging community, our experienced community, our expert community, our exploring community, and our elite community. Each one will be talking about different things based on where you are and what plan you're paying for with us. That will dictate your permissions. So if you're on an exploring plan, don't be trying to go in the elite community. We ain't letting you in. If you're on emerging, stay in emerging until you grow up and get to the next level. Nothing wrong with growth. We all grew up, right? So that's how it's going to be. That'll be over here on the left in this menu. So it'll be your library. Oh, we ain't even supposed to show that. Shoot. Speaker Library is another product we got, but that you'll see it in April. The speaker library is bananas. It is cheating. It's basically where you'll be able to offer your courses. This is your course and intellectual property library, right? So that's the brand that we're using it under. It's called the Speaker Library. You'll be able to put all of your courses, your books, your trainings, whatever you're offering will be under your profile under Speaker Library. And you'll be able to run your course from right here. You don't have to pay Udemy or anything else. You can put your paid course right here so that people can take those trainings. There it is. This is what it looked like. This is gonna be so dope. Y'all have no clue how incredible this is.
Hey,
But this is the future.
hey, Ron, I got two questions for you. One, how in the world do you find all this server space to keep adding all this stuff? And then the second thing is, like, can you go over backgrounds? I know, like, Ange has a background and like with your QR code and stuff like that. Like, I know a lot of people are talking about podcasts today. How can we leverage the background, or should we leverage the background?
What background of what? My background or your background?
So
like the thing that Ange has up there on the back. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So basically what you do is you go into Canva, and when you go to your QR code in Speaker QR, it will let you download. Let me see. In SpeakerHub Pro, when you go into Speaker QR, there's a little button underneath it that asks if you want to download. 1 second here. And it'll let you download the image to use wherever you want. Now, one of the dope things is if you got a t-shirt with that QR code on it, and then you walked around and people are shining, it's like, yo, I'm a speaker, right? That would be dope. But that's one thing you could do, right? But when you view the QR code, if you go into manage over here in the back, it brings it up and it'll ask you to download it. Let me click on it. It's gonna pop up on the right. And you can see I can download it, I can look at it, I can edit it, I can delete it all from here. Does that make sense? So you basically download a copy of it and then you make it whatever color you want. Because your colors may not be royal blue or black or red or orange. You can make whatever color you want to put on your slides so that it fits the slides that you're using. Does that make sense? Or your company's brand color. So ours is a navy bluish black that we use for SpeakerHub.
Yep.
Got it?
Understood. I just didn't know like which podcast we should use it for, and which, not the QR code, but like the background in general. Like, should we have a natural background, kind of like yours?
Anything it's really up to you. I don't like the green screen stuff.
Mm-hmm. So it's
me personally. Yeah. I mean, our team loves them. They always use them, right? I hate them things, right? I'm like, dude, I want this background because it's mine. I know ain't nobody else got this, right? But I spent a lot of time getting this the way I wanted it to kind of fit my personality. But I mean, like, it's just go to video settings in Zoom and go to backgrounds and effects. And then, I mean, I got one. It just looks dumb because I ain't got no hair for it to be able to outline. So I'd be cutting my ears off and doing all this other stupid stuff. So I'm like, man, I mean, we could use this, but like, I don't like my head looking like he got dents in it. And I talk too much with my hands. Look at how that looks. That's annoying as heck. So my preference is nothing, right? Or if you want to use a little blur, that works. But yeah, that's not my preference. Make sense?
Makes complete sense. Thanks.